Hello YouTube, Team Mosin coming to you here from the bunker today. I'm just taking a break in the middle of a giant reloading project that I'm in this weekend, and I wanted to just spend a moment talking with you about a new tool that I'm using that I think is going to greatly reduce the amount of case prep time that we all spend, and particularly with case trimming. And so before we get started, let's kind of review really quickly for those who may not have a lot of experience in reloading, or just kind of looking into maybe thinking about getting into reloading. When you fire any case in a rifle, the case will expand, it will grow, it will become longer, and so you cannot reload it until you go through what we call case prep, and that's any number of steps. Particularly, it always involves resizing, it always involves cleaning, it always involves depriming it. But it also involves a couple of other things, which is one of the most time-consuming aspects of that process is just simply case trimming, which once you get it all cleaned and resized, it's still too long, and so you have to a lot of times trim it back to a factory standard length, or to a length that you're using in your precision rifle for consistency, or what have you. And over time, I've always thought there had to be a better way for me to do this, but even to buy one of the simple lathe type case trimmers from Lyman or RCBS or Lee or whoever, Hornady, those are over $100 a piece at times. And so that didn't seem to me like a good investment, because it didn't seem to me that it would save me any time from the way I was doing it. And the way I have been doing it is simply using the good old Lee trimmers, which is simply a hand tool. The cutters are up here. The caliber specific length of tool is right here. You've got to buy one of these, this portion of it, for every caliber that you reload. You can use the cutter, and they make these fancy ball cutter handles for you if you're doing a lot. That makes it more comfortable to get a hold of, compared to just the little standard cutters that they all come with. Those work great too. And overall, Lee trimmers work great. I've done tens of thousands of rounds of ammunition for rifles and pistols with don't trim a lot for pistols, but for the rifles particularly, just thousands and thousands, uncountable thousands, using Lee tools, Lee trimmers, and they work really, really great. The idea is that you're gonna chuck your case up into the case holder that you have to use, and this is done with a cartridge that's been deprimed, because you need to have the end of the tool, the little stem there, has to come out the primer hole. All right, and so the idea is you're going to chuck that tool up, or that case up, into your case holder, and once it's securely chucked up in there, then you can simply start to run your tool down in there. The cutters are going to hit at the end of the case mouth, which is causing the entire cartridge to be too long, and as you have it running, it's going to cut that down at the case mouth, cut this case neck down to length, and it's going to stop whenever the little end of the tool, the end of the spindle there, hits the hardened face of your case holder. It's going to stop, and then the cutters aren't going to cut anymore, and that's how you get all of your cases cut to the exact same length. Lee cutters are very consistent, they're very tough, they're very cheap. This whole setup probably costs per caliber $10 to $12, and I have some of these that I've had ever since I've started reloading, and they're a little dull, but they still cut, they still work fine. And they are very consistent. Even if you go and buy a new one, like say for 30-06, it won't vary more than 1,000th off of what the one you had bought 10 years ago. And so they're very consistent, and they do a very good job. They just take forever, because you're always chucking the case up into the chuck, tightening it down, running it in, cutting it, and then you're having to unchuck the case and move on with your life. And it's a situation where I can only do about 50 to 60 an hour when things are going really, really well, and that's with like big cases that I can get a hold of with my sausage fingers, like 30-06 or 308, 330, or 3030 or something like that. When I'm working with the small cases, 556 and 223, I can't go that fast because my dinky, those dinky little cases and my big old clumsy hands. I've had carpal tunnel repair on, surgery on both hands over the years, and the hands just don't work like they used to. It's just not happening. They work fine, but they just aren't able to go fast with those dinky little 223 cases. And make any time on them. So as I say, even with 30.6, it's running about 50 cases an hour, and so when you're trying to do 500 cases, that's a couple days, doing that. And when you're trying to do thousands and thousands of cases like I do for 223, 5x6, all of a sudden that's 2 or 3 hours a night for a week. Just trimming cases. And then for your precision loads, for your 30.6, like this, there's for me and for anybody else that's shooting any kind of precision rifle stuff, there's a whole bunch of other steps involved in that process. You're starting out cleaning it, you're starting out also depriming it, and you're making sure that your primer pockets are all nice and clean. You're deburring your flash hole. Sounds very sexy. Trust me, it's not. And then you're having to neck size them if that's what you're doing, and then possibly run them. After you've got the powder and the bullet stuck in them, you may or may not be crimping them, depending on what application you're going for with your rifle reloading. And so, over the years, it's just occurred to me that, hey, I have a life. I do like to shoot a lot. I do like to take, my buddies out and shoot. I do like to take young people, new shooters out, ladies, whatever, and introduce them to shooting. A lot of times I'm doing that with a 223 with an AR, and so you just going through buckets of ammunition for an AR at times, and that whole process is possible because I do like to reload, and I am able to reload a lot more money or a lot more ammunition than I could buy for the money, but it's still a great amount of time in that process. So you end up just like I say, it seems to consume your life. But what I have discovered the last couple months is a new tool. It's not a new tool, it's a new tool to me. It's called the World's Finest Trimmer. It's made by Little Crow Gunworks in Minnesota, and it's a caliber specific tool. You got to buy one of these for everything that you reload. So it's a two-piece tool, and it comes with this end here, which is the end you're actually going to put the case into. It indexes off the shoulder. There's no chucking anything in or out. Once your case is resized and everything, and your case dimensions are what you need, what you're left with is a neck that's long from the shoulder up, and so you're just simply inserting this in. It's going to cut the case until that shoulder hits the inside of the tool. This is on a very high quality machine quality ball bearing there, and so it's going to index on that. Once it gets to that point, it's done cutting because it stops on the shoulder and it won't cut anymore. In the other end is just a cut off an end mill, high quality industrial end mill. It simply fits in the tool, and this is the part of the process with the tool that I see on YouTube and I see on Facebook and stuff, where folks are like, I can't get it set up, it's cutting my cases too short, and folks are having to fool with it a little bit. And I will admit, it is a little tricky, maybe a little challenging. But for anybody that has some common sense and has done a little bit of this kind of stuff, if you just kind of go slow and use your head, it's not hard at all to get it set up. I mean, if I can get it set up, anybody can get it set up. And what the difficulty is, I think, is folks are wanting to cinch this down, like when they have it in already in a drill. They're taking a case, and it's kind of funny. You have to take a case that's already sized and cut to length. It has to be the right size to set your tool up. Okay, so you have to go back and use your old lead trimmer to make yourself a case that's already cut to length, and then you simply loosen the two hex screws on either side here. That allows this to be in two parts, and it will slide in and out. What folks are doing is, when they're doing the original setup, they're putting a case, they're taking their cut to length case, they're putting it in, and they're getting the shoulder up against the inside of the front of the tool, and then they're jamming, going all Hulk on the tool and jamming the whole thing back hard against the end mill. And what you forget is that this is brass. It will flex, it will stretch, it will bend. And so if you're just wrenching down on this thing after you've got it in there, I mean, it just sits in there. There's no clamping. There's no, nothing to screw down. And so if you're just pushing that in so hard against that end mill, you're actually causing the neck and the end of your case mouth to flex a little bit, and it's going to give you, it's going to be set up too short then if you cinch the hex screws down when you putting all that pressure on it, and that's the length you set it at. Well, then once you've got the hex screws tightened down, it's not going to relax at all, and you flex the neck in the case, and you flex the mouth of the case, and now we're only talking a few thousandths. And if you trim your cases 5 thousandths too short, that case is ruined. You got to throw it in the recycle bin. And so that's what I would say you have to guard against, is just when you're setting it up, just set it in there. The case is already cut the length. Set it in there so that the shoulder abuts up against the front of the tool. This inside here, this bearing is cut for the shoulder. Get it in there on the shoulder so that it's just simply stopped, and then slide get the rest of the tool so that that end mill is just barely touching the case mouth. That's all you need. You don't need to be wrenching it down with any force, because what you want is that cutter to stop cutting when the shoulder is finally abutted up against the inside of the tool, the way it's made. And I think folks are just using too much force, really, because dummy number one here did the exact same thing. So I get much better results when I'm setting this tool up if I just get it in there and then get the shoulder up against the inside of the tool where it's supposed to be, and then you're able to slide the tool up and down the shaft of the of your end mill there, the other part of the tool, and then just get it to where it stops. Don't be horsing it. And then just tighten it down, and then that's it. You're good to go, and you shouldn't have any problems. As I said, I did these 500 with the tool, and they turned out very nicely. It's supposed to be your trim to length on 30-06 is supposed to be 2.484, and most of them were 2.484 or 2.485. I very rarely got something that was messed up, and when I did get something when it was messed up, it was probably me. And so this tool just takes a little bit of getting used to. It has a certain feel to it when it goes in. You can feel it cutting. You have to kind of get used to that, and you have to be very sensitive as to when it stops cutting and the shoulder is up against the tool and the cutters aren't cutting anymore. Don't wrench on it, and make it cut more, which is how I think folks are kind of setting it up to begin with, putting the case under tension, and then screwing the hex nuts down and getting the tool set up, and so that the tool is set up short because you flex the case as you're setting it up, and so just don't do that. I think you avoid all your problems if you just kind of go easy on this tool during the setup, and then while you're using it, just don't. Sometimes with that lead tool, I kind of felt I did. You are applying a certain amount of pressure to get it to cut, but with this tool, you just the way it's set up, it's such a finely made tool, you don't have to apply any pressure really to get it to cut. It will cut, and it'll stop cutting right when you need it to stop cutting, and then all of your cases will come out just perfectly. And as I say, it's just a matter of turning it on, getting it in there, letting it cut, stops cutting, then you can maybe give it a little turn. That'll kind of help it to square up the end if you've got any kind of inconsistency in the case or in the shoulder of the case or neck area in particular. That'll help you just get it cut off nice and square. If you just kind of, after it feels like it's done cutting, just give it a little twist as the tool's still running, and that will help you to get that squared up really nice if there is any problem with it. The other thing it does really well, aside from making just a beautiful cut on the end of the case, it cuts so nice and clean. There aren't any burrs on the outside of the case as I'm turning it here, which you definitely get with the Lee tool. So you have to be very particular about. Of course, we're always going to bevel the inside of the case mouth, but then you always have to deburr the outside with a tool when I use the Lee cutter, and then again, letting the OCD take over, then maybe even go after it with a little bit of fine steel wool or something like that, which I'm still going to do to 30-06 cases. Don't let anybody kid you. I'm going to be down here just like all of you, with the bright lights and magnifying glasses going over my, precision rifle rounds, with a caliber, and probably even like a CAT scan machine, and possibly, even a radio spectrometer to make sure that they're all, perfectly identical, and giving me the, perfect one-hole accuracy downrange. That I'm working on having NASA kind of help me measure some of that going forward in the future. So, just like all of you, and so anyway. It does such a great job, like on 223s. I'm sure if it does it the same as it does on these 30-06 cases and doesn't leave burrs on the outside of the case mouth as nicely as this does, I'm not even going to be deburring 223s anymore. I'll still be beveling them so I can reload the bullet. But that's going to save me some more time, especially on 223s, as I'll have one less thing I got to do, because for 223s, I really don't care as long as they're all hitting a clay pigeon at 100 yards. That's plenty good enough, and for that kind of work on those, at least for the application the way I'm doing it now. And so that's going to save me a bit more time. And I also have an AR in 308 that'll save me some time in the reloading process for the 308. Again, I'm not really using that as a precision rifle. It shoots very well, but I won't have to be deburring cases anymore on the 308 if it works as well as it does on the 30-06. So, again, this is the world's finest case trimmer. World's finest trimmer, actually, they call it. World's finest trimmer. Little Crow Gunworks in Minnesota. Again, check them out. They've got a website. They've got a Facebook page. They're on YouTube. And for $80, again, caliber specific, you got to buy one for every caliber that you reload. But I think it's definitely worth it. And so that's the message today here from Team Mosin, that I found something finally after reloading for going on 10 years now that I think is actually going to be worth spending the money to save me time in case prep. And so I'll do a follow-up video probably in months to come, let you know once I fired a bunch of this ammunition, after I've used this enough to kind of really know with a couple of my different rifles how this is all really going. But I really anticipate this is going to be very successful. It's going to be a significant game changer in terms of the time that I have to use. So again, that's the message today from Team Mosin. I thank you for joining me. Please like, share, and subscribe if you can. I really appreciate the support, and hope to see you again soon. Thank you.